Buddham Namah Dhammam Namah Sangham Namah.
Part 3. Critics of His Doctrines.
Buddham Namah Dhammam Namah Sangham Namah.
1. Critics of open admission to the Sangh. 1. It was open for the Sangh to admit a layman who was merely a disciple. 2. There were persons who criticized the Lord for making the Sangh a wide open temple for anybody to enter. 3. They argued that under such a scheme it may well happen that after they have been admitted into the order they give it up, and return again to the lower state, and by their backsliding the people are led to say, "Vain must be this religion of Samana Gotwa, which these men have given up." 4. The criticism was not well founded and had altogether missed the intention of the blessed Lord in making such a scheme. 5. The blessed Lord replied that in establishing his religion he had constructed a bathing tank full of the excellent waters of emancipation, the bath of good law. 6. It was the Lord's desire that whosoever is polluted with stains of sin, he, bathing in it, can wash away all his sins. 7. And if anyone, having gone to the bathing tank of good law, should not bathe in it, but turn back polluted as before and return again to the lower state, it is he who is to be blamed and not the religion. 8. Oh, could I, said the blessed Lord, after constructing this bathing tank for enabling people to wash away their sins, say, "Let no one who is dirty go down into this tank. Let only those whose dust and dirt have been washed away, who are purified and stainless, go down into the tank." 9. On such terms what good would have been my religion? 10. The critics forgot that the blessed Lord did not wish to confine the benefit only to a few. He wanted to keep it open to all, to be tried by all. 2. Critics of the rule of woes. 1. Why are the 5 precepts not enough? Why woes are felt necessary? These were the questions that were often raised. 2. It was argued that if diseases would abate without medicine, what could be the advantage of weakening the body by emetics, by purges, and other like remedies? 3. Just so, if laymen, living at home and enjoying the pleasures of the senses, can realize in themselves the conditions of peace, the supreme good, nibbana, by taking precepts, what is the need of the bhikkhu taking upon himself these woes? 4. The blessed Lord devised the woes because of the virtues inherent in them. 5. A life conditioned by woes is certain to bring with it growth in goodness. It is itself a protection against a fall. 6. Those who take woes and keep them as self-dependence are emancipated. 7. The keeping of woes is the restriction of lust, and of malice, of pride, the cutting of evil thoughts. 8. Those who take woes and keep them, well guarded are they indeed, and altogether pure are they in manners and in mind. 9. Not so with mere taking of precepts. 10. In the case of the precepts there is no protection against moral decline as there is in the case of woes. 11. A life of woes is very difficult and a life of precepts not so. It is necessary for mankind to have some who live the life of woes. So the blessed Lord prescribed both. 3. Critics of the doctrine of ahimsa. 1. There were persons who objected to the doctrine of ahimsa. They said that it involved surrender or non-resistance to evil. 2. This is a complete misrepresentation of what the blessed Lord taught by his doctrine of ahimsa. 3. The blessed Lord has made his position clear on various occasions so as to leave no room for ambiguity or misunderstanding. 4. The first such occasion to which reference should be made is the occasion when he made a rule regarding the entry of a soldier in the Sangh. 5. At one time the border provinces of the kingdom of Magab were agitated. Then the Magadha king Senia Bimbisara gave order to the commander of the army, "Well now, go and ask your officers to search through the border provinces for the offenders, punish them and restore peace." The commander acted accordingly. 6. On hearing the orders of the commander, the officers found themselves placed in a dilemma. They knew that the Tathagata taught that those who go to war and find delight in fighting do evil and produce great demerit. On the other hand, here was the king's order to capture the offenders and to kill them. "Now what shall we do?" asked the officers to themselves. 7. Then these officers thought, if we could enter the order of the Buddha, we would be able to escape from the dilemma. 8. Thus these officers went to the bhikkhus and asked them for ordination. The bhikkhus conferred on them the Pabbaja and Upsampara ordinations, and the officers disappeared from the army. 9. The commander of the army, finding that the officers were not to be seen, asked the soldiers, "Why, how is it that the officers are nowhere to be seen?" And the officers, "Lord, have embraced religious life of the bhikkhus," replied the soldiers. 10. Then the commander of the army was annoyed and became very angry. How can the bhikkhus ordain persons in the royal army? 11. The commander of the army informed the king of what had happened. And the king asked the officers of justice, "Tell me, my good sirs, what punishment does he deserve who ordains a person in the royal service?" 12. The Upaka, "Your Majesty, should be beheaded. To him who recites the Kamavaka, the tongue should be torn out. To those who form the chapter, half of their ribs should be broken." 13. Then the king went to the place where the Blessed One was, and, after obeisance, informed him of what had happened. 14. The Lord well knows that there are kings who are against the Dhamma. These hostile kings are ever ready to harass the bhikkhus even for trifling reasons. It is impossible to imagine the lengths to which they might go in their ill-treatment of the bhikkhus if they find that the bhikkhus are seducing the soldiers to leave the army and join the Sangh. Pray, Lord, to do the needful to avert the disaster. 15. The Lord replied, "It was never my intention to allow soldiers under the cloak of ahimsa or in the name of ahimsa to abandon their duty to the king or to their country." 16. Accordingly, the Blessed One made a rule against the admission of persons in royal service to the Sangh and proclaimed it to the bhikkhus, saying, "Let no one, O bhikkhus, who is in the royal service, receive the Pabbaja ordination. He who confers the Pabbaja ordination on such a person will be guilty of a Dukkarai offense." 17. A second time the Blessed One was cross-examined on the subject of ahimsa by Sinha, a general in the army, and who was a follower of Mahavir. 18. Sinha asked, "One doubt still lurks in my mind concerning the doctrine of the Blessed One. Will the Blessed One consent to clear the cloud away so that I may understand the Dhamma as the Blessed One teaches it?" 19. The Tathagat having given his consent, Sinha said, "I am a soldier, O Blessed One, and am appointed by the king to enforce his laws and to wage his wars. Does the Tathagat, who teaches kindness without end and compassion with all sufferers, permit the punishment of the criminal? And further, does the Tathagat declare that it is wrong to go to war for the protection of our homes, our wives, our children, and our property? Does the Tathagat teach the doctrine of a complete self-surrender, so that I should suffer the evildoer to do what he pleases and yield submissively to him who threatens to take by violence what is my own? Does the Tathagat maintain that all strifes, including such warfare as is waged for a righteous cause, should be forbidden?" 20. The Lord replied, "The Tathagat says, he who deserves punishment must be punished, and he who is worthy of favor must be favored. Yet at the same time he teaches to do no injury to any living being but to be full of love and kindness. These injunctions are not contradictory. For whosoever must be punished for the crimes which he has committed suffers his injury not through the ill will of the judge but on account of his evil-doing. His own acts have brought upon him the injury that the executor of the law inflicts. When a magistrate punishes, let him not harbor hatred in his breast, yet a murderer, when put to death, should consider that this is the fruit of his own act. As soon as he will understand that the punishment will purify his soul, he will no longer lament his fate. but rejoice at it. 21. A proper understanding of these instances would show that the ahimsa taught by the Blessed Lord was fundamental. But it was not absolute. 22. He taught that evil should be cured by the return of good. But he never preached that evil should be allowed to overpower good. 23. He stood for ahimsa. He denounced hinsa. But he did not deny that hinsa may be the last resort to save good being destroyed by evil. 24. Thus it is not that the Blessed Lord taught a dangerous doctrine. It is the critics who failed to understand its significance and its scope. 4. Charge of preaching virtue and creating gloom. 1. Dukkha as the cause of gloom. 1. Dukkha in its original sense given to it by Kapila means unrest, commotion. 2. Initially it had a metaphysical meaning. 3. Later on it acquired the meaning of suffering, arid sorrow. 4. The two senses were not far detached. They were very close. 5. Unrest brings sorrow and suffering. 6. Soon it acquired the meaning of sorrow and suffering from social and economic causes. 7. In what sense did the Buddha use the word sorrow and suffering? 8. There is a sermon on record from which it is clear that the Buddha was very much aware that poverty was a cause of sorrow. 9. In that sermon he says, "Monks, is poverty a woeful thing for a worldly wanton?" 10. Surely, Lord. 11. And when a man is poor, needy, in straits, he gets into debt, and is that woeful too? 12. Surely, Lord. 13. And when he gets into debt, he borrows, and is that woeful too? 14. Surely, Lord. 15. And when the bill falls due, he pays not and they press him. Is that woeful too? 16. Surely, Lord. 17. And when pressed, he pays not and they beset him. Is that woeful too? 18. Surely, Lord. 19. And when beset, he pays not and they bind him. Is that woeful too? 20. Surely, Lord. 21. Thus, monks, poverty, debt, borrowing, being pressed, beset and bound are all woes for the worldly wanton. 22. Woeful in the world is poverty and debt. 23. Thus the Buddha's conception of dukkha is material. 2. Impermanence as the cause of gloom. 1. Another ground for this accusation arises from the doctrine that everything which is compound is impermanent. 2. Nobody questions the truth of the doctrine. 3. Everything is impermanent is admitted by all. 4. The doctrine, if it is true, must be told just as truth must be told, however unpleasant it may be. 5. But why draw a pessimistic conclusion? 6. If life is short, it is short, and one need not be gloomy about it. 7. It is just a matter of interpretation. 8. The Burmese interpretation is very much different. 9. The Burmese celebrate the event of death in a family as though it was an event of joy. 10. On the day of death, the householder gives a public feast and the people remove the dead body to the graveyard dancing. Nobody minds the death, for it was to come. 11. If impermanence is pessimistic, it is only because permanence was assumed to be true, although it was a false one. 12. Buddha's preaching cannot, therefore, be charged as spreading gloom. 3. Is Buddhism pessimistic? 1. The Buddha's Dhamma has been accused of creating pessimism. 2. The accusation arises from the first Aryan truth, which says that there is dukkha, sorrow, misery, in the world. 3. It is rather surprising that a reference to dukkha should give cause to such an accusation. 4. Karl Marx also said that there is exploitation in the world and the rich are being made richer and the poor are being made poorer. 5. And yet nobody has said that Karl Marx's doctrine is pessimism. 6. Why then should a different attitude be shown to the Buddha's doctrine? 7. It may be because the Buddha is reported to have said in his first sermon, "Birth is sorrowful, old age is sorrowful, death is sorrowful," that a deeper pessimistic coloring has been given to his Dhamma. 8. But those who know rhetoric know that this is an artifice of exaggeration and that it is practiced by skilled literary hands to produce effect. 9. That birth is sorrowful is an exaggeration by the Buddha can be proved by reference to a sermon of his in which he has preached that birth as a human being is a very precious thing. 10. Again, if the Buddha had merely referred to dukkha, such an accusation could be sustainable. 11. But the Buddha's second Aryan truth emphasizes that this dukkha must be removed. In order to emphasize the duty of removal of dukkha, he spoke of the existence of dukkha. 12. To the removal of dukkha te Buddha attached great importance. It is because he found that Kapila merely stated that there was dukkha and said nothing more about it that he felt dissatisfied and left the ashram of Muni Arakaram. 13. How can this Dhamma be called pessimistic? 14. Surely a teacher who is anxious to remove dukkha cannot be charged with pessimism. 5. Critics of the theory of soul and rebirth. 1. The blessed Lord preached that there was no soul. The blessed Lord also affirmed that there was rebirth. 2. There were not wanting people who criticized the Lord for preaching what they regarded as to such contradictory doctrines. 3. How can there be rebirth if there is no soul? They asked. 4. There is no contradiction. There can be rebirth even though there is no soul. 5. There is a mango stone. The stone gives rise to a mango tree. The mango tree produces mangoes. 6. Here is rebirth of a mango. 7. But there is no soul. 8. So there can be rebirth although there is no soul. 6. Charge of being an annihilationist. 1. Once when the Lord was staying at Shravasti in Jeta's grove, it was reported to him that a certain bhikkhu by name Arita had come to certain views about the doctrines taught by the Lord as the views of the Lord, although they were not the views of the Lord. 2. One of the doctrines about which Arita was misrepresenting the Lord was whether he was an annihilationist. 3. The blessed Lord sent for Arita. Arita came. On being questioned, he sat silent and glum. 4. The Lord then said to him, some recluses and Brahmins, wrongly, erroneously and falsely, charge me in defiance of facts, with being an annihilationist and with preaching disintegration and extirpation of existing creatures. 5. It is just what I am not and what I do not affirm. 6. What I have consistently preached both in the past and today is the existence of ill and the ending of ill. Part 4. Friends and Admirers. 1. Devotion of Dhananjanani, a Brahmani. 1. The blessed Lord had many friends and admirers. Among them was Dhananjanani. 2. She was the wife of a Bharadwaja Brahmin. Her husband hated the Lord. But Dhananjani was a devotee of the Lord. Her devotion is worthy of mention. 3. The Exalted One was once staying near Dadagha in the bamboo grove at the Viara known as the squirrel's feeding ground. 4. Now at that time Dhanani, a Brahmani, the wife of a certain Brahmin of the Bharadwaja family, was living with her husband in Rajagraha. 5. While her husband was a great opponent of the Buddha, Dhananjanani was a fervent believer in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the order. She was in the habit of praising the triple gem. Whenever she broke out in this way in praise, her husband used to close his ears. 6. On the eve of his giving a great banquet to many fellow Brahmins, he begged her to do what she liked, provided she did not offend his guests by her praises of the Buddha. 7. Dhananjanani would give no such undertaking and he threatened to slice her like a plantain with his dagger. She declared herself ready to suffer. So she retained her freedom of speech and proceeded to pour forth 500 verses on her theme, so that he surrendered unconditionally. 8. Ball and golden spoon were laid down and the guests sat down for food. While serving the guests, the dominant impulse arose. In the midst she turned towards the bamboo grove and uttered the praises of the triple gem. 9. The scandalized guests hurried away, spitting out the food defiled by the presence of a heretic, and the husband scolded her amid the ruins of his feast. 10. And she, while serving the Bhardaja with his dinner, came before him and praised the gem. Glory to that exalted one, the Arhant, the Buddha Supreme. Glory to the norm. Glory to the order. 11 And when she had so said, the Bhardaja Brahman grew angry, and exclaimed, There now, you wretch! Must you be singing the praises of that shaveling friar at any and every opportunity? Now, wretch, will I give that teacher of thine a piece of my mind. 12 O Brahman, replied Ghalani, I know of no one throughout the world of gods, Maras, or Brahmas, recluses or Brahmans, no one human or divine, who could so admonish that exalted one, Arhant, Buddha, Supreme. Nevertheless, go thou, Brahman, and then thou wilt know. 13 Then the Bhardaja, vexed and displeased, went to find the exalted one, and coming into his presence, exchanged with him greetings and compliments, friendly and courteous, and sat down at one side. 14 So seated, he asked the exalted one the following questions. What must we slay if we would happy live? What must we slay if we could weep no more? What is above all other things, whereof the slaughter thou approvest, Gotwa? 15 The exalted one replied as follows. Wrath must ye slay if ye would happy live, wrath must ye slay if ye would weep no more of. Anger, Brahman, with its poisoned source, and fevered climax, murderously sweet. That is the slaughter by the Aryans praised. That must ye slay in sooth, to weep no more. 16 Realizing the excellence of the reply given by the exalted one, the Bhardaja Brahman said to him, Most excellent, Lord, most excellent. Just as if a man were to set up that which had been thrown down, or were to reveal that which was hidden away, or were to point out the right road to him who had gone astray, or were to bring a lamp into the darkness, so that those who had eyes could see external objects. Even so, Lord, has the Lord Gotama shown me his doctrine in various ways. Even I, Lord, betake myself to the exalted one as my refuge to the norm and to the order. I would leave the world under the rule of Gotwa. I would take orders. 17 So Ghanjanani was not only a devotee of the Buddha, she made her husband also a devotee of the Buddha. 2 The abiding faith of Vishak. 1 Visha was born in the city of Bharia in the Anga country. 2 Her father was Dhananjay and her mother's name was Sumna. 3 Once the Buddha visited Bharia with a large company of monks. At the invitation of the Brahman Sela, Vishava, his granddaughter, was then 7 years old. 4 Visha, though only 7, expressed to her grandfather Mendaka her desire to see the Buddha. Mendaka allowed her to do so and gave her 500 companions, 500 slaves, and 500 chariots, that she might visit the Buddha. 5 She stopped the chariot some distance away and approached the Buddha on foot. 6 He preached to her the Dhamma and she became his lay disciple. 7 For the next fortnight Mendaka invited the Buddha and his followers daily to his house, where he fed them. 8 Later, when at Pasindi's request, Bimbisara sent Kanjai to live in Kosa. Visha accompanied her parents and lived in Saketa. 9 Migra, a wealthy citizen of Shravasti, wanted to get his son Punana married. He had sent a few people to find a suitable bride. 10 The party in search of a bride happened to come to Shravasti. They saw Visha on her way to the lake to bathe on a feast day. 11 At that moment there was a great shower. Vishakha's companions ran for shelter. But Visha did not. She walked at her usual pace and reached the spot where the messengers were. 12 They asked her why she did not run for shelter and so preserve her clothes. She answered that she had plenty of clothes, but that if she ran she might damage a limb which she could not replace. Unmarried girls, she said, are like goods awaiting sale, they must not be disfigured. 13 The party, which was already struck by her beauty, was greatly impressed by her intelligence. The party offered her a bouquet of flowers which she accepted as a proposal of marriage. 14 After Visha returned home, the marriage party followed her and laid Punana's suit before Dhananjay. The proposal was accepted and confirmed by an exchange of letters. 15 When Pasindi heard of it, he offered to accompany Punnabhna to Saketa, as a mark of signal honor. Bhanjay welcomed the king and his retinue, Migra, Punnamna and their followers with all regard, attending personally to all the details of hospitality. 16. 500 goldsmiths were engaged to make ornaments for the bride. Bhanjay gave his daughter, as dowry, 500 carts full of money, 500 with vessels of gold and cattle, etc. 17. When the time came for Visha to leave, Bhanjay gave her 10 admonitions, which Migra overheard from the next room. These admonitions were: not to give fire from the house outside, not to take into the house fire from without, to give only to those who gave in return, not to give to those who did not give in return, to give him that gives and to him that gives not, to seat, eat and eat happily, and to tend the fire and to honor the household deities. 18. On the following day Bhanjay appointed 8 householders to be sponsors to his daughter and inquire into any charges that might be brought against her. 19. Migra wanted that his daughter-in-law should be seen by the public of Shravasti. Visha entered Shravasti standing in her chariot with the public lining the road on both sides. The public showered gifts on her, but these she distributed among the people. 20. Migra was a follower of the Niganthas, and soon after Vishaka's arrival in his house, he sent for them and told her to minister to them. But Vishaka, repulsed by their nudity, refused to pay them homage. 21. The Niganthas urged that she should be sent away, but Vigra bided his time. 22. One day as Migra was eating, while Vishaka stood fanning him, a monk was seen standing outside the house. Vishaka stood aside that Migra might see him, but Migra continued to eat without noticing the monk. 23. Seeing this, Vishaka said to the monk, "Pass on, sir, my father-in-law eats stale fare." Migra was angry and threatened to send her away, but at her request the matter was referred to her sponsors. 24. They inquired into the several charges brought against her and adjudged her not guilty. 25. Visha then gave orders that preparations be made for her return to her parents. Both Migra and his wife begged for forgiveness, which she granted, on condition that he would invite to the house the Buddha and his monks. 26. This he did, but, owing to the influence of the Niganthas, he left Vishaka to entertain them, and only consented to hear the Buddha's sermon at the end of the meal from behind a curtain. 27. He was, however, so convinced by the sermon that he became a convert. 28. His gratitude towards Visha was boundless. Henceforth he considered her to be his mother, deserving all the honors due to a mother. From this time onward she was called Migrata. 29. Such was the abiding faith of Vishaka. 3. The devotion of Malika. Once while the Lord was staying at Shravasti in Deta's grove, the one darling son of a certain householder died, and the loss made the father neglect his business and his meals. 2. He was always going to the charnel ground and wailing aloud, saying, "Where are you, my son? Where are you?" 3. The bereaved father came to the blessed Lord and after due salutations sat on one side. Foreseeing that his mind was absolutely vacant, showing no interest in anything, not telling the purpose for which he had come, the blessed Lord, noticing his condition, said, "You are not yourself. Your mind is all Ori." 5. How could my mind not be Ori, sir, when I have lost my darling and only son? 6. Yes, householder, our dear ones bring sorrow and lamentation, pain, suffering and tribulation. 7. Who, sir, can entertain such a view? Said the angry householder. Nay, our dear ones are a joy and happiness to us. 8. And with these words the householder, rejecting the Lord's pronouncement, indignantly got up and departed. 9. Hard by, there were a number of gamblers having a game with dice, and to them came the householder with his story of how he had related his sorrows to the recluse Kotwa, how he had been received and how he had indignantly departed. 10. You were quite right, said the gamblers, for our dear ones are a source of joy and happiness to us. So the householder felt he had got the gamblers on his side. 11. Now all this, in due course, penetrated to the private apartments. of the palace where the king told Queen Marika that her recluse Gotwa had stated that dear ones bring sorrow and lamentation, pain, suffering and tribulation. 12. Well, sir, if the Lord said so, so it is. 13. Just as a pupil accepts all his master tells him, saying, so it is, sir, so it is, just in the same way, Marika, you accept all the recluse Gotwa says with your, if the Lord said so, so it is, away with you and beg on. 14. Then the queen told the Brahman Nari Gyan to go to the Lord and in her name, to bow his head at the Lord's feet and, after asking after his health, to inquire whether he had really said what was attributed to him. 15. And be careful, she added, to tell me exactly what the Lord answers. 16. In obedience to the queen's commands, the Brahman went off and duly asked the Lord whether he had really said so. 17. Yes, Brahman, our dear ones do bring sorrow and lamentation, pain, suffering, and tribulation. Here is the proof. 18. Once, here in Shasti, a woman's mother died and the daughter, crazed and beside herself, went about from street to street, from crossroad to crossroad, saying, have you seen my mother? Have you seen my mother? 19. Another proof is a woman of Shravasti who lost her father, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, a husband. Crazed and beside herself, the woman went about from street to street and from crossroad to crossroad, asking if anyone had seen the dear ones she had lost. 20. Another proof is a man of Shravasti who lost his mother, his father, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, a wife. Crazed and beside himself, the man went about from street to street and from crossroad to crossroad, asking if anyone had seen the dear ones he had lost. 21. Another proof is the woman of Shravasti who visited her people's home, and they wanted to take her from her husband and marry her to someone else whom she did not like. 22. She told her husband about it, whereupon he cut her into two and then killed himself, so that they might both die together. 23. All this the Brahman Nari Gyan duly reported to the queen. 24. The queen then went to the king and asked, Are you fond, sir, of your only daughter, the Princess Vajra? Yes, I am, replied the king. 25. If anything happened to your Vajra, would you feel sorry or not? If anything happened to her, it would make a great difference to my life. 26. Are you fond, sir, of me? Asked Marika. Yes, L.M. 27. If anything happened to me, would you feel sorry or would you not? If anything happened to you, it would make a great difference to my life. 28. Are you fond, sir, of the people of Kashi and Kosa? Yes, replied the king. If anything happened to them, would you be sorry or not? 29. If anything happened to them, it would make great difference. How could it be otherwise? 30. Did the blessed Lord say anything different? No, Malika, said the king in repentance. Four, the ardent wish of a pregnant mother. Once when the Lord was staying in the Gagga country at Sunsagara in the Bheskla Grove in the deer park there, Prince Bhogi's palace, called the Lotus, had just been finished but had not as yet been inhabited by recluse, Brahman or any other person. 2. Said the prince to a young Brahman named Sankikavada, Go to the Lord and in my name bow your head at his feet, ask after his health and invite him to be so good as to take his meal with me tomorrow and to bring his confraternity with him. 3. The message was delivered to the Lord who, by silence, signified acceptance, as was duly reported to the prince. 4. When night had passed, the prince, having ordered an excellent meal to be got ready in his palace and a carpeting of white doth to be laid to the foot of the stairs of the Lotus Palace, told the young Brahman to announce to the Lord that all was ready. 5. This was done, and early that day the Lord, duly robed and ball in hand, came to the palace where the prince was awaiting him, outside the portals. 6. Seeing the Lord approaching, the prince advanced and saluted him, and moved in his train towards the palace. 7. At the foot of the stairs the Lord stood still. Said the prince, I beg the Lord to step up on the carpeting. I beg the Blessed One to do this, too. My abiding weal and welfare. But the Lord kept silent. 8. A second time did the prince appeal, and still the Lord kept silent. A third time he appealed, and now the Lord looked towards Ananda. 9. Ananda understood what the trouble was and asked that the carpeting should be rolled up and removed, for the Lord would not tread upon it, as he is looking to those that shall follow hereafter. 10. So the prince ordered the carpeting to be rolled up and removed, after which he ordered seats to be set out upstairs in the palace. 11. The Lord then, proceeding upstairs, sat down on the seat set for him with the confraternity. 12. The prince with his own hand served that excellent meal without stint to the Lord and the confraternity. 13. The Lord's meal over and done, Prince Bobhi, seating himself on a low seat to one side, said to the Lord, My view, sir, is that true weal must be sought not through things pleasant but through things unpleasant. 14. In days gone by, Prince, said the Blessed One, I too held the same view in the days before my enlightenment. Time was when, being quite young, with a wealth of coal-black hair and in all the beauty of my early prime, despite the wishes of my parents who wept and lamented, I cut off hair and beard, donned the yellow robes and went forth from home to homelessness as a pilgrim now, in quest of the good and in search for the road to that utter peace which is beyond all compare. 15. Now I hold a different view. If a man knows the doctrine, he will find the destruction of all ills. 16. Said the prince to the Lord, What a doctrine! What an exposition of doctrine! It is so easy to understand. 17. Here the young Brahman Satakara observed to the prince that, though he had testified thus, yet he had not gone on to say that he sought as a refuge the Lord and his doctrine and his confraternity as he should have. 18. Say not so, my friend. Say not so, said the prince, for I have heard from the lips of my lady mother, how, when once the Lord was staying at Kosambi in the Gosita pleasance, she, being then pregnant, came to the Lord, saluted him and took a seat to one side, saying, Be it a boy or be it a girl that I carry in my womb, my child unborn seeks refuge with the Lord and his doctrine and his confraternity. And I ask the Lord to accept the child as a follower who has found an abiding refuge from this time forth while life lasts. 19. Another time, when the Lord was staying here in this Ghagga country at Samsagara, in the Bhiskla grove in the deer park there, my nurse carried me to the Lord, and standing before him, said, Here is Prince Bobhi who seeks refuge with the Lord and his doctrine and his confraternity. 20. Now, in person, for the third time I seek such refuge and ask the Lord to accept me as a follower who has found an abiding refuge while life lasts. 5. Kenya's welcome. 1. There was living at Apnata Brahman, Sora, who was versed in all three Vedas, was accomplished in ritual with the glosses thereon, in phonology, and in etymology, with chronicles as a fifth branch. He knew exegesis, and was learned in casuistry and in the signs that mark a Superman. He had 300 young Brahmins to whom he taught the runes. 2. Kenya the fire worshipper was an adherent of this Brahman. Sela. Accompanied by his 300 pupils, Sela went and saw all the fire worshippers there busy with their several tasks, with Kenya himself marking off the reserved circles. 3. At the sight of this the Brahmin said to Kenya, What is all this? Is it a wedding feast? Or is there a great sacrifice afoot? Or have you invited to a repast tomorrow Senia Bimbisara, king of Magab, with all his host? 4. It is no wedding feast, Sela, nor is the king coming with all his host, but I have got a great sacrifice afoot. 4. The recluse Gotma has arrived at Upna in the course of an alms pilgrimage with 1250 almsmen in his train. 5. Now, such, according to report, is the high repute of this Kotwa that he is deemed to be the Lord of Enlightenment. 6. It is he whom I have invited to tomorrow's meal here, together with his confraternity. The feast that is being prepared is for him. 7. Did you attribute to him enlightenment, Kenya? Asked Salah.
Yes,
I did, replied Kenya. Did you?
yes I did. 6. Pasindi in praise of the Master.
1. Once the Exalted One was staying near Shrasti at Geta's Grove, in
Anath Pindika's park.
2. Now at that time the Daja of Kosa, Pasindi, had just returned from a sham fight, in which he was victorious, having carried out his object.
And on reaching the park he turned in that way, so far as the cart
He rode in his chariot, and then got down and went on foot
through the park. 3. On that occasion a number of the brethren were walking up and down in the open air.
Then Pasindi, the Daja of Kosaya, went up to those brethren and thus accosted them. Reverend sirs, where now is the Exalted One staying, that Arhant, Buddha Supreme, for whom to behold him? 4. Yonder, Maharaja, is his lodging, and the door is shut. Do you go up quietly, without nervousness, enter the veranda, cough, and rattle the door bar. The Exalted One will open the door to you. 5. So Pasindi, the Daja of Kosa, went up to the lodging as he was told, coughed and rattled the door bar,
and the Exalted One opened the door.
6. Then Pasindi entered the lodging, fell with his head at the feet of the Exalted One, kissed his feet and stroked them with his hands, and announced his name, saying, Lord, I am Pasindi, the Daja of Kosa. 7. But, Maharaja, seeing what significance therein, do you show me this profound humanity and pay such affectionate obeisance to this body, said the Lord.
Bhavatu Sabba Mangala. Sadhu, 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 Sadhu,